What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Aftersound here, bringing you Splinterlands content every single day. We also stream right here on the channel every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday morning, so come by and say hello. All right, guys, lots of red candles, lots of red just all around. Not just red candles, but red meaning people are angry, frustrated. The salt is just reaching phenomenal, delicious levels. And yeah, I mean, that's just the state of where things are at right now. Now, here's the thing. We're having a cool off in the market. So I would say a good percentage of this is driven by the fact that Bitcoin has now corrected from, 73, I think was the high, down to 62. And, the rest of the market is following. And this is following a tremendous Q1 in which we saw an absolute rocket ship take off after the Bitcoin ETFs, which followed a very solid Q4. I mean, it's crazy to think that 6 months ago, Bitcoin was in the 25K range and, almost did a 3X. This is Bitcoin, the old orange coin that nobody really cares about if you're crazy into alts and stuff like that. But for Bitcoin maxis like me, that's a big deal, right? That's a big deal to see Bitcoin do that, and excited to see what happens in the rest of this, hopefully, bull market and bull run. But I wanted to just take a moment here to kind of recap where we've been over the past 6 months, because I'm recording this on I'm recording this on March 19th. And if I remember correctly, we're about maybe exactly 6 months into the new tenure of Matt as the CEO. I believe he took over around this time in September of 2023. And I just wanted to take a look back and actually call out what a fantastic job he has done. So what this video is not, I'm not trying to compare Matt and Aggie. I think that they're both great, and I'm really excited about what Aggie's doing. And, say what you want about what Aggie did while he was CEO of Splinterlands. I don't want to get into that. He's Chief FOMO Officer. He'll always be Chief FOMO Officer in my heart, and I wish him the best in GLS. But I want to take just an objective look at what Matt has done since he took over in September of last year, because we've now hit that 6 month mark, which I think is, significant if just, in terms of it being a, half a year. So here's the thing. What changed when Matt took over, and I've talked about this before, so I'm not going to harp on it too much. What changed for me dramatically was that the scope of the project came down significantly. But in that way, Matt has been actually very on point about setting proper expectations and then following through with them. Now, you go back to last year. I will do this in two chunks. We'll do the second half, or the Q4 of 2023, and then the Q1 of this year so far. So in Q4 of last year, he came in and he said, there's two things we want to get done before the end of the year. We want to get Rebellion out and we want to get Land out, and nothing else really matters, right? Soulkeep was like a nice to have. And we all know where that ended up. Hopefully we'll get more information on that soon. But Land and Land 1.5 specifically, and Rebellion. And when you look back at what he was trying to accomplish, Land was like a week late. Yes, they came and they had another snafu where they announced it and then they're like, you know what, we're going to hold off. And it probably would have come out the next week had it not been, Thanksgiving holiday here in the US. So it got pushed back 2 weeks. But Land came out. And, aside from that, I mean, it is what everybody expected it to be, or maybe actually some people had way too high expectations for 1.5, but it came out, it was usable. There were no big hiccups. There was no big exploits or anything like that. And it just worked. Same thing with Rebellion. We saw the presale go live in October. There was a lot of hype, FOMO. It sold out, or almost sold out. I think it was like 7,000 packs short of selling out. Then the launch happened without a hitch in early December. There was a delay with the conflicts, but I will go back and say, I mean, yes, at the time it would sucked because we all had that expectation that conflicts were going to start on December 12th. But ultimately, I do believe with the guarantee system, many more people participated and had a much better experience overall. So them taking some time to retool it, to take a look and try to make it a better experience. Yeah, we started a month late. It was the holidays. It wasn't that big of a deal. And this is what I'm talking about. Like we're in this situation right now and it sucks, but 3-4 months from now, 6 months, 12 months from now, I don't know. We're going to look back and be like, man, we were really impatient, right? Like everybody was just salty for whatever the case was. So, that second half, or not second half, but that Q4 of last year, I thought he did a fantastic job. Come into 2024. has the production, or well, not the production, but I guess development and releases, have they been slower than people would have liked? Yeah, right. And of course, they scale back on the town halls. They're only doing that every other week now. But here's the thing, Matt and team came in and they said, we have 2 objectives for 2024, right? This is what we were trying to accomplish. New player experience, or as he called it, player experience, and land. Now, I know a bunch of people are going to jump in here and be like, oh, land, blah, blah, blah. They haven't done anything on land. You're right. They actually haven't, right? So that probably can be categorized as a big miss. But if you're being honest with yourself, what are they trying to do in place of that? It's new player experience, or the player experience overall. And something that wasn't even anywhere on our radar was the ranked update, the ranked overhaul, which in my opinion, they probably came in January, started working on it, and accomplished that, knocked it out in less than 2 months. And again, I'm not a developer, so I don't know if that's a lot or a little time. For me, it was impressive, just considering how long stuff has taken for the team to get out in the past. But they came up with the concept for it, they came up with the design for it, they came up with development and all the fun stuff. And so the ranked overhaul came out at the end of February. The what's that called? The rewards overhaul is hopefully going to be out early April, right? So April 2nd, which again, I'm just going to count this all as part of Q1. So part of this whole 6-month time frame. And hopefully we're going to get our land 1.6. And so going back to my comment earlier of how this is, whether you agree with it or not, in terms of the order that they did it, hopefully you can at least understand why they're putting the player experience at the forefront rather than land. Right. And we've talked about it at length on this channel, talked about it in previous videos, I've talked about it on live streams. Right. At the end of the day, the bull run is here. Land is something that's not going to generate any more revenue for the team, at least not in a significant direct way. Whereas it's and on top of that, it is also more of a player retention, right? It's adding features onto what they want this kind of separate game to be. Whereas the player experience is supposed to be designed to help new players get onboarded, make it easier overall. And it's going to lead into the second half of the year in which they want to, start marketing. Now, I'm sure they had their feet to the fire because they saw Bitcoin going up and they saw the rest of the market going up. So even more so, they want to get this stuff out and put the game in a position to attract newer players. So like I said, maybe you don't agree with it, but at least you can understand why they put land to the side. On top of that, with all of the releases that they've had, they've done a pretty good job of giving us new rule sets. They've done a good job with conflicts, right? That went live in January. We haven't seen any major hiccups outside of like somebody opening a couple of Kais in packs early, right? So that's, again, I'm not gonna get I'm not gonna get all beat up about that. Like for me, it's so far, right? Taking a bird's eye view on the last 6 months, the expectations that were set have, in my opinion, been sufficiently met, right? So at this point in time, shout out to Matt. Kudos to Matt. Kudos to the team. I think that they're doing a fantastic job when looking at it in this kind of or through this lens. Yes, when you're going to compare Splinterlands to the rest of the gaming ecosystem, it's going to be hard to compare, right? There's a lot of really cool, shiny things out there, and I highly recommend you go check them out, right? Like, I mean, I've never been like a Splinterlands maxi, and there's a lot of cool games out there. But what I do think Splinterlands is doing quite well is delivering on what they're promising. And they have to deal with a lot of the baggage that came from the previous years of a lot of over promises and under deliveries. But again, I'm asking you to be honest with yourself and look back at the last 6 months. I don't think that there's been a significant miss. There hasn't been something that has been that's it, right? What are we complaining about now? We're complaining about token prices, token values, but the flywheel was activated, right? And at the end of the day, we know that there are issues within the ecosystem, right, or the game economy that are things that the team can't necessarily control directly. And what I mean by that is the fact that like SPS inflation is just way too high, right? It's just way too high. And, that's something that we as a community need to come together, work through the DAO process, work with the DAO manager and try to reduce that. And that's something that we're slowly doing with, the LP reward changes and things like that in the future. But again, if you're going to evaluate where the team has been, what they've done, under Matt's leadership and with this new direction that they've had, I think it's been a pretty solid 6 months, and I am genuinely very excited to see what the game looks like in another 6 months, right? What does this game look like when we hit Q4 of 2024, right? Q4 tends to be a fantastic time for the crypto market, and that gives the team roughly 6 months from now to get all the other cool stuff that they want, to bring in somebody who can take this game to the next level in terms of marketing, to add in a ton of other value, maybe to land, to other areas of the game, guilds, hopefully, right? And it does give the rest of the ecosystem, of related projects, which again is outside the scope of like what I'm trying to talk about here, but I'm talking like Soulkeep, Arcade Colony, GLX. It gives them all time to add value as a whole. The rising tide raises all ships type of deal. So I don't know. That's just where my thoughts are at on this. I figured I'd share it with you. I think it actually is quite a bright spot to consider, all things considered with how the market is doing right now. And so, it is what it is. I do believe that we are going to get through this. And I do believe that, and I don't know what SPS is going to go to. I don't know that SPS is going to moon necessarily, whatever moon means to you, whatever price target you have in your head. But I would be shocked if in a couple of months, if the rest of the market continues ticking up and the team continues to deliver all the cool stuff that they have planned, that we're going to be under 2 cents, right? Now, granted, I know something's going to happen and I'm going to jinx it and somebody's going to clip this video and come back to me in 6 months and be like, oh man, you were so off. But you know what? If that ends up being the case, then that ends up being the case, right? Like there's nothing I control here. But at the end of the day, I still remain very excited for what's to come. This ecosystem is not perfect. The game is not perfect, but the project is fun. The community is great. And last 6 months have been good. Last 6 months have been good. And I do look forward to the next 6 months and what they can bring. But that is all I have for you guys in this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Otherwise, I'll catch you all in the next one and see you around the game. Take care.